Many business owners right now feel like they're working harder, but getting worse results. Does this sound familiar to you? I'm Melissa Franks, your host of the Opt-In Podcast, and this is where we go from surviving to thriving in business. I want to start at the top of all of this, that if that resonated with you, you are absolutely not alone. I'm hearing this from founders across industries and business sizes every day in calls. I hear it from service-based business, product-based business, home services-based business. Everybody is saying revenue is unpredictable. The things that were working before aren't working now. My team is exhausted. They don't have any more capacity to do anything. And I just want this to be as easy as it used to be. The reality is that the market has changed. And those that are feeling this way have not yet adjusted operationally to what is happening now. The good news is you're here. We're having the conversation today, and I am going to talk you through why business feels so hard and what you can do about it. There are a few things at play here. The very first one is that buyer behavior has changed. A few years ago, post-pandemic, because buyer behavior was even different during pandemic, as we came out of it, buyers were eager to get back into life and try new things and experiment. And what's happened now is that things have changed. People are slower to buy. Businesses are also slower to make investment decisions. They're spending more time comparing the options and relying on tools like artificial intelligence to give them some advice as they're weighing the pros and cons about what to do. And in order for them to move forward with a purchase, especially if it's meaningful, they require more to be able to trust you, your services, your products, and to really spend an almighty dollar for what you are offering out in the marketplace. They're being more discerning in general, and that's primarily because discretionary income, both in businesses and in households, has dramatically reduced over the last year and a half. Another factor that your business may be feeling hard actually has nothing to do at all with the consumer. It's possible that you had a high growth period. And when you have a high growth period, you become incredibly reactionary. You're trying to get your arms around what's happening in the business and just ride the wave. And so you likely hired fast. You likely added offers and or created stuff as you went. Like, oh, you'll pay me for that? Fantastic. You'll pay me for that? Fantastic. You may have even started acquiring tools because as the growth was happening, you're like, we need to automate that. We need to move faster. We need to bring some consistency to what we're doing. And so what ends up happening is that you have all of these people, you have inconsistent things that you're selling, offers, and your technology stack is a mess. You're not quite sure what system does what. You have redundancy. You don't even know what you're paying for. And everybody's kind of created their own little silo situation. Now that the business has slowed down, what you're starting to see is that the inefficiencies are showing up. And they're showing up in two places. They're showing up in cost. So your margins are actually shrinking. And they're showing up in a lack of efficiency. And these things were all hidden by growth. Growth will revenue coming in sometimes will cure all ills, but eventually those ills come back up and they come back up to bite you. And the third thing that may be happening is that you're still operating like you're in a growth area. You remember how I talked about as we came out of the pandemic, we kind of looked at 22, 23. That was high growth for most businesses. And what worked back then doesn't work now. So some things that you may still be doing is that you're making reactive decision making, which is really, really dangerous if revenue is slowing down because you're not spending time thinking about the facts, you're just emotionally responding. You may not be doing any operational forecasting, so you may not be sitting down to say, if we make this change, how do we implement it? What is the impact? What is the trickle through the entire business? And you may only be marketing in one place. You may have had one place where you were like, if I bet all on black, I'm going to hit black every single time. And it may have worked really, really well in the past few years. And now all of a sudden you're coming up for air and saying, why is this not working anymore? What's happening? I had a sure thing going on, and now the sure thing has literally fallen apart. And what I want to talk to you about is if you're feeling this, if you're feeling like you're still stuck in the growth era and you haven't actually transformed your way of working now that we're in a different market, if you scaled really, really rapidly and now you're starting to see efficiencies, chaos, and expense bloat that you don't want, or we have a situation where buyer behavior changed, or all three things are happening, we've got to talk about the operational shifts that really smart businesses are making right now, because this is the keys for you. This is going to help, A, it not feel so hard, and B, help you recapture that revenue that you really want to be bringing into the business. The other thing that I will say before we move into these three operational shifts is that one of the best practices I would recommend to you is, and do this monthly, identify where your revenue is coming from and say, is this a healthy revenue source? Do I want to do this forever? Is this aligned with our core business? When you do these high growth moments and you start just selling whatever people will buy, often you sell things that you don't actually want to offer. Often you start selling things that don't make a lot of sense. They're misaligned to your core product offering or your core services structure. And this is a really good time to kind of sit back and say, hey, are we still doing the right thing? Are we still focused on the right things? Are we still offering the right things? So the operational shifts that smart businesses are taking as they're talking through these things is, number one, fewer priorities. Now, I will die on this hill that if you are doing anything massive in your business, you should do just one massive thing. If you are rebranding, that's the only thing that you're doing. If you are changing your CRM, that is what you are doing. If you are completely overhauling your offer structure, that is what you are doing. If you are changing your marketing strategy, that is what you are doing. You are not rebranding, changing the CRM, changing your offer structure, changing your marketing structure all at the same time. And the reason for that is because you can't do any of those things in a silo. Not only does it require the whole team to participate in each one of those things, it also requires all of the other functions of your business to be participating in those things. And so there will be dependencies and there will be conflicts and it will be a mess. And what will actually happen is your team and you will get completely distracted from the business at hand. So my first recommendation to all businesses that are in this space where you are is to start focusing on fewer priorities. The businesses that are winning right now, just to give you an idea of where their priorities are landing and where they're focusing, they're simplifying offers, they are focusing on the profitable revenue streams, and they're cutting operational noise. It's because they realize that complexity is killing execution. So what's happening? The very first thing that we do, and hey, by the way, this is something that we do in our VIP days with our clients. In fact, one client, we do a VIP day every quarter and start right here, is we look at the offer structure and we always ask, how can we make this easier? How can we make this cleaner? How can we make this more profitable? And where do we have dead weight? Then you want to focus on your profitable revenue streams. So once you understand the offer structure, then I want you to focus on, where are you actually making your money? It is incredibly possible, and we have talked about this before, that you are focused on the thing that's most expensive, so where you get the most revenue in the door, not the thing that is most profitable. In most cases, we get enamored by the high ticket thing that is capacity constrained and difficult to fulfill, aka not profitable or less profitable. We don't spend any time looking at the thing that has the most profitability because, you know why? It requires us to sell at volume. And volume feels harder. It's just a different mechanism. If you think about it, finding that person to buy the most expensive product that you sell is like finding a needle in a haystack. But when you do, in your brain, you're like, oh, we get so much money when it comes in. Finding somebody to be able to buy your lowest price product, whatever that is significantly easier. But in order to have the same revenue lift is the big thing, you have to sell more. And more to most people equals hard. And then you move away from it. And so I invite you, as you're figuring out your priorities, to focus on the profitable revenue streams. That's where you focus. You can keep the other offers at play, but the one that you're talking about, the one that you're selling, the one that you're motivating your team around, the one that you have goals set around, is the thing that makes you the most profit. And then the last thing is eliminate things that don't matter. There are many projects going on everywhere. I was working with a client not that long ago, and we were really trying to push to end a month very strongly from a financial perspective. And what we found was the team was getting really distracted by making sure they followed the process. So they were actually doing less productive work to bring in revenue because they were doing more work making sure the process worked. Of course, we want the process documented. Of course, we want them to all be following the same process. And if the team is making a decision to refine process instead of getting revenue in the door, we need to have a conversation. And so sometimes, and this is coming from the operator, by the way, it is easier to work on internal things than to take external action. And so on a monthly basis, you should be really paying attention to how your team is spending their time, and you included, and eliminate the things that they are doing that are not necessary. The second shift that business owners need to make when things are feeling harder than they should and revenue's no longer coming in the door is that they start focusing on making decisions based on data. Now, let's be honest with each other. You probably track revenue, and you probably have some idea of how much cash is in your bank account, and that's probably it. Data feels boring. Data feels cumbersome. And often, if you're counting anything, you don't know what it's telling you to do. Rachel Hollis famously talks about, and if you don't know who she is, she's a New York Times bestselling author and a speaker and etc. And she famously talks about when she started making real money in her business, all she knew was if she had cash or not. That was really it. And she ended up paying a significant amount of money to go get trained on how to read financial reports, because what she realized was that she couldn't make smart decisions in her business if she didn't understand what her accountant and bookkeeper were saying, if she didn't understand what was actually happening with her business. And I use that example to say that smart owners realize that just because they don't understand it doesn't mean it's not important. And you can acquire the knowledge in a variety of ways. You can partner with an expert that actually knows what you should be tracking and can articulate to you what good, better, best looks like and what levers to pull if you're not performing where you want to be. Or you can learn those skills yourself, or you can do both. And as a seasoned operator, as an expert operator, the things that we always start with when we come in the business owners like, I just know how much top line revenue we're making. We say, okay, great. So the first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at conversion rates, and then we're going to look at cost of customer acquisition, and then we're going to look at the profitability of every single thing you sell. If you're a product-based business, that means that you need to know the profit on every single SKU. And then we're going to look at team capacity. That's where we start. We just start at 4 things. We take a look at the pipeline. So how do we go from awareness to purchase? And what does that conversion rate really, really look like? Then we understand how much are you paying to get a customer? So are you running paid ads? Are you doing organic customer acquisition, which is like your email list or social media or whatever? And if you are, like, how much are you paying in labor? How much of your time is going? There's actually a way to calculate that even if you're not doing paid advertising. Then we look at the offer or the product profitability, and then we look at capacity, and we look at the team, and we say, like, hey, how much capacity do we have? And we also look at the ability to fulfill. And so if you're a product-based business, one of the things that we look at is how many months on hand do you have? If you sold 100 widgets a month, how long until you run out? And how often do you need to reorder? And we start to build those projections. If you're a services-based business, which is human capital, then we look at how much can the team handle before we need to hire somebody else, before we need to implement new processes, before we need to bring in tech. If you only track revenue, you're driving the business with the dashboard lights off. Imagine being in a car and it is dark outside and you cannot see your dash. Can't see any of the instruments. You can't see how fast you're driving. Your sensors aren't working to tell you if you're close to somebody. You are literally driving blind. That's what's happening when you only track revenue in your business. The third shift is operational discipline. And I know This is not sexy. And it's coming from me, an operator. So you're probably like, well, of course, Melissa, you're talking about operational discipline because that's something that you love. I want to just tell you a little secret. I love operational discipline for others. I do not love it for myself. It is one of the things that I struggle with the most inside of my business, is making sure that our processes are documented and we are following them. I am the biggest offender of doing what I want. Ask my team. They will tell you. So I understand. So taking my own medicine, what operational discipline looks like, and what businesses that are winning in this market today are doing, are looking at their data weekly. They're holding their teams accountable, and they have an intentional, planned, phased execution approach for whatever they are doing. Your business is like your circulatory system, which is, how blood passes through your body. Okay? And when you have a healthy heart, it beats at a steady rhythm, right? And when you exercise, you get more beats per minute. When you sleep, it slows down. And your heart determines how fast or how slow blood moves through your body, right? An operating rhythm is exactly the same thing for your business. It's the circulatory system for the body, except in boring business operational terms. It's what determines the speed for which your business moves. It's what determines the pathways that clients and your team flow through the business. It's what can speed up when you're in a growth period, and it's what will slow down when you're not. Your operating rhythm is how you keep your business healthy, just like your heart. If you put too much stress on your heart, what happens? You have a heart attack, or your heart stops, or you need to go on medication, or you need an operation. So what you want to do is keep your operating rhythm healthy, and the way that you do that is through operational discipline. It's through these three things that we talked about. It's having fewer priorities, focusing on the things that really matter, focusing on the things that are profitable, using data to make decisions, and then really executing with intent and purpose and steering the business in that regard. So as I said, I'm talking to people all of the time about this, whether they are prospective clients or just business owners that want some feedback and some advice. Hey, you got a minute? Can I pick your brain? That happens a lot. Or it's the clients that we're working with. We're seeing this happen significantly. So just this week, in fact, I was talking with a client, and they own multiple brick and mortar locations. And they came into the meeting, and it's a standing meeting that we have, and normally we have like an agenda and all the things, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What do we want to talk about today? And they're like, we're out of cash. We're out of cash. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And what they described was that they've just been stuck, that they're doing all of the things and like all of the metrics look right, but like somehow the money isn't coming in. And what we realized very quickly within the first 10 minutes of the meeting is that they were looking at the wrong data. And once they looked at a very specific data type, they're like, that's the problem. That right there, that's the problem. Let's solve that. And if we solve that, it solves all of these other problems. And this is a really good example of making data-driven decisions, because they had data. In fact, they had more data than they could possibly want. They were looking at the wrong data. And this is where sometimes you have to ask yourself, if all of the indicators are telling me that things are fine, and I know they are not, then maybe the indicators you're looking at are wrong. And so it's an opportunity for you, if you are saying, this is hard, revenue is slowing down, I don't know, I just can't figure out what the problem is, everything looks fine. It means that you have to do further diagnostics. It means that you need to look at something differently. It means maybe that you need an outside opinion to come in and just ask questions and look at the data with you to be able to say, well, explain that to me, or why aren't you looking at this, or how is this happening? I guarantee you that if all of the indicators are saying things are fine and you are saying they are not fine, that the answer is in data, and an outside opinion can help you get unstuck. Now, another client recently that we were working with came to us completely overwhelmed. And the question on the table was, do I need to fire my whole team and start over? And it was kind of a shocking question. It was like, what do you mean, do you need to fire the whole team? And what the founder kept saying was like, I can't get out of the weeds. Like, every time I delegate something or I ask somebody to handle something, I have to come back in and take it to the finish line. And so we said, well, is it clear who's accountable for what? Is it clear who can take which decisions? Is it clear where escalations happen? And the short answer was, it's not clear. There was no operational clarity. So what was happening was people were doing best efforts and then they were stepping on each other because somebody would make a decision and then it would create a problem for somebody else. And it was creating all of this chaos that the founder had to get involved in. So once we really sat back and we said, what we need to do is we need to define how the business operates. We need to define what each of these functions and individuals is accountable for and responsible for. We need to define when they need to consult and inform each other, and we need to ensure that it runs smoothly. And you, as the captain of the ship, are the one charting the course, and then they're the ones that are doing all of the activities to make sure that you're headed in the right direction. It wasn't that the team wasn't equipped. It wasn't that the team was wrong. It wasn't that they all need to be fired. It was that they lacked operational clarity. And when they lack operational clarity, what it means is that they pull in the founder so that they can provide the clarity that they're missing. And then the third business that I want to talk a little bit about, and this is a business that I've talked about before, is one where we have intentionally refined offers frequently. And we did so because as the business grew, there were offers that were not scalable. And so what we did is we looked at the offers through two lenses, one of them through price and one of them through just what was included. And what we have identified and what has allowed the founder to 7x in 1 year, is that when we simplified what we were selling, the business grew faster. When we eliminated extra things, when we got really clear, when we stopped talking in vague generalities, and the offers ended up being more simple, the business grew faster. And we see this over and over and over again. A couple of years ago, we were working with an e-commerce business, and we got inside of them, and the business was really struggling. In fact, the question on the table was, are we going to file for bankruptcy? And when is that going to have to happen if this trajectory continues? And the very first thing that we identified was that they had 450 items that they were selling. And then when we dug a little bit deeper, we realized that 80%, literally 80% of those items was making no money. It was just sunk cost in inventory. And that 20% was what was actually making the majority of the revenue. And so we set upon an aggressive two-pronged approach. Eliminate SKUs, so just get rid of stuff, and advertise the heck out of the 20%. Can you guess what happened when we focused, when we simplified on what we were doing? Revenue increased, profits improved. And it was because we went in and we said, this is too complicated. Confused people don't buy. We're offering them too many things. There's just too much duplication. Like, they don't know what to do. They don't know what they need. We're not telling them. We're supposed to be the experts here and tell them what they need, and they can't figure it out. So let's just cut out the noise. And as soon as we did that, business returned to profitability. It was almost immediate. It was significantly faster than they ever thought. And that's because when your business is simple, when you focus on the things that are working, your business will grow. So there's a variety of levers that you can pull. There's a variety of things that you can look at. The most important thing is that you identify that you need to reset. And so when I get into these conversations and founders are overwhelmed and they feel like their business is failing and they don't know what to do, we start with this one question. If you had to rebuild your business today with half the complexity, what would you keep? And when you're asked this question, what you're going to evaluate is your offers or products, so what you're selling, your team, how you're structured, the roles, the functions. I'm not talking people. You're not talking about Sally. You're talking about your social media manager. So offers or products, team structure, marketing channels. Where are you marketing? Where are you doing paid advertising? Where are you not? How are you acquiring customers? And the fourth thing is operational systems. And across those 4 dimensions, you ask yourself, if I had to do this all over again, what would I keep if I reduce the complexity by 50%? Most founders don't need to work harder. I know you feel that in your core. All that you really need to do is operate differently. And that's exactly what we do at On-Call COO. We help founders get out of the weeds. We help you operate more efficiently. We help you build a business that is scalable for the long term. And most importantly, we help you understand how your business is functioning, what information to look at, and we make recommendations so you can take decisions to achieve your goals faster. You started a business because you had a passion about something. You started a business because you had a solution for something. You didn't start the business to be an administrator and run it. I've never met a single founder that is like, you know what my dream is one day to just be able to people manage and look at reports and pull microscopic levers so we can improve profitability. Never have I ever met an owner that says that. Often it's a very large vision. They want to make a big impact in the world. They want to improve their personal life circumstances so they can live in a location or travel or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It has nothing to do with the actual running of the business. And that's why there are people like fractional COOs out in the marketplace, because we love to run stuff. We love it. I could talk to you about your business all day long. So don't feel bad if this is uncomfortable. It just means that you started the business for a reason other than wanting to run a business. And that's okay. Now, I hope this was helpful for you. If you're feeling stuckish, run through this podcast, go through the exercise of recreating your business, see where you land. If you're still feeling stuck, or like you could use a second opinion, in the show notes, you can click the consultation link. You can have a free consultation with me or my team. We can talk you through exactly what you're seeing, help make some recommendations, and see if we can help you turn around your business. So if that sounds good to you, click the link in the show notes below. And until I see you again, friends, please know that you are wise and you are strong and you are incapable, and I believe in you.